Before we begin, ask yourself, how far would you go to protect your family when the world turns into a frozen hell? Most of us think we know the answer, but today's story is a chilling reminder that when nature pushes back, civilization is just a thin layer of ice. Welcome to Aura Narrative. Today, we're venturing into the dark heart of the Sierra Nevada to uncover the true, unfiltered history of the Donner Party. If you're fascinated by the mysteries of human survival, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Now, let's head into the snow. The White Hell, the tragedy of the Donner Party. In the winter of 1846, 87 pioneers set out for the golden fields of California, dreaming of a new life. They were families, mothers, fathers, and children, traveling in covered wagons across the vast American wilderness. But a single wrong decision led them into a mountain trap. Trapped by 20 feet of snow, with no food and no hope, they were forced to face a darkness no human should ever encounter. This is not just a story of survival. It is a haunting chronicle of how far the human soul will go when pushed to the absolute edge of existence. Chapter 1. The Illusion of a Shortcut. The journey began with hope. George Donner and James Reed were successful men, leading a massive wagon train from Illinois. They were part of the Great Westward Expansion, a time when thousands of Americans believed it was their manifest destiny to conquer the continent. But as they reached Wyoming, they met a man named Lansford Hastings. He told them about a new route, a shortcut that would shave weeks off their journey. He called it the Hastings Cutoff. Experienced mountain men warned them, stay on the established trail. But the lure of a faster route was too strong. The Donner Party turned their wagons toward the desert, unknowingly marching toward their graves. Chapter 2. The Desert's Toll. The shortcut was a disaster. Instead of being easy, it was a brutal stretch of salt flats and jagged mountains. The heat was unbearable. Cattle died by the hundreds. Wagons broke down. By the time they rejoined the main trail, they hadn't saved time. They had lost 3 precious weeks. The sun was beginning to set earlier. The air was getting crisper. They reached the foot of the Sierra Nevada mountains in late October. They were only 100 miles from safety, but the mountains had a different plan. Chapter 3. The Early Winter. In a normal year, the snow doesn't fall heavily in the Sierras until December. But 1846 was not a normal year. As the Donner Party began their ascent, a massive Arctic storm slammed into the mountains. In a single night, 5 feet of snow fell. The wagons couldn't move. The oxen were buried alive. The families were trapped at a place now known as Donner Lake. They built makeshift cabins out of logs and hides, hoping the storm would pass in a few days. It didn't. It lasted for months. Chapter 4. The Starving Time. By December, the food was gone. First, they ate the remaining horses. Then, they boiled the hides of their dead cattle to make a glue-like soup. Finally, they ate their pet dogs. The hunger was more than a physical pain. It was a psychological torture. One by one, the weakest began to die. Children watched their parents slip away into the cold. In the silence of the snow-covered cabins, a terrifying thought began to take root in the minds of the survivors. To live, they would have to do the unthinkable. Chapter 5. The Forlorn Hope. A small group of 15 people, known as the Forlorn Hope, decided to try and hike out on snowshoes to find help. For weeks, they wandered through the white abyss. When they ran out of food, they were forced to eat the leather of their shoes. Eventually, the first instance of cannibalism occurred. They drew straws to see who would be sacrificed, but nature usually decided for them. Only 7 of the 15 made it to a ranch in California, looking like walking skeletons. Their arrival sparked one of the greatest rescue missions in American history. Chapter 6. The Feast of Despair. As the calendar turned to January 1847, the camps at Donner Lake became a graveyard. The snow was now 20 feet deep, covering the cabins entirely. The survivors had to dig tunnels just to reach the surface. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of smoke, damp fur, and death. The first to resort to the unthinkable were those in the Forlorn Hope group, lost in the mountains. They had named their camp the Camp of Death. When their last scrap of deerskin was gone, they looked at each other with hollow eyes. They didn't want to kill. They waited for someone to die. When Patrick Dolan passed away, the others, weeping and turning their faces away, prepared his body. They ate to survive, but they lost their souls in the process. Back at the lake, the Donner family and the Reed family were still holding out, but soon the hides they used for roofs were boiled and eaten. They were eating soup made of bone marrow and hair. When the last of the oxen hides were gone, the silence in the cabins became deafening. Chapter 7. The First Relief. In California, news of the trapped families finally reached the fort. A rescue party of 7 brave men, carrying as much food as they could on their backs, began the impossible climb. They reached the lake in February. What they found was a scene from a nightmare. A woman emerged from a hole in the snow, her face blackened by soot, and asked in a skeletal voice, "Are you men from heaven, or are you from the earth?" The rescuers could only take 21 people back with them, mostly children. Many parents had to make the ultimate sacrifice, staying behind to die so their children could have a chance at life. Among them was Margaret Reed, who had to leave her husband and 2 oldest children to save the younger ones. The separation was filled with screams that echoed through the frozen pines. Chapter 8. The Second and Third Relief. The rescues continued, but the weather was relentless. Each time a relief party arrived, there were fewer people alive. By the time the Third Relief reached the camp of George Donner, they found his wife Tamsin. She was still strong, but she refused to leave her dying husband. "I will stay with George," she said. It was a death sentence. She gave her children to the rescuers, kissed them goodbye, and walked back into the dark cabin to watch her husband take his last breath. Her bravery remains one of the most tragic displays of love in American history. Chapter 9. The Last Survivor. By April 1847, only 1 man remained at the lake, Louis Keseberg. When the final rescue party found him, he was surrounded by the remains of his companions. He was accused of murder and grew to be the most hated man in California. Years later, Keseberg defended himself, claiming he only did what was necessary to see the sun again. Whether he was a monster or a victim of circumstance is a question that still haunts the Sierra Nevada mountains. Chapter 10. The Legacy of the Sierra. Out of the 87 people who started the journey, only 47 survived. But those 47 went on to build the foundations of California. They founded towns, built businesses, and their descendants still live there today. Today, tourists drive past Donner Lake on a smooth highway, listening to music and enjoying the view. They look at the tall pine trees and the sparkling water. But if you stop the car and listen closely to the wind whistling through the granite peaks, you can almost hear the echoes of the wagons, the ghosts of a family who took a shortcut that led to eternity. Chapter 11. The Echoes of Survival. The nightmare at Donner Lake didn't end when the snow melted. for the 47 survivors, a new battle began. The battle against their own memories and a judgmental public. In the mid-1800s, news traveled slowly, but the story of the Donner Party spread like wildfire across the United States. The survivors were greeted in California not just with pity, but with a strange, uncomfortable curiosity. People whispered behind their backs in the streets of San Francisco and Sacramento. They were known as the Eaters of the Dead. Yet, despite the trauma, many of these survivors showed a resilience that defines the American spirit. Virginia Reed, who was just a young girl during the winter of 1846, wrote a letter to her cousin back home that became famous. She wrote, "Never take no cut-offs and hurry along as fast as you can." Those 12 words became the unofficial rule for every pioneer who followed in their footsteps. Chapter 12. From Rags to Riches. Perhaps the most surprising part of this story is what happened to the Reed family. James Reed, who had been banished from the group early on for a killing in self-defense, was the man who organized the rescue parties. Against all odds, his entire family survived. They settled in San Jose, California. James Reed became a wealthy real estate developer and a prominent citizen. The man who was once an outcast helped build the very foundations of one of California's most famous cities. His daughter, Virginia, lived a long, peaceful life, eventually converting to Catholicism, a promise she made to God while starving in the mountains. Chapter 13. The Ghost of Louis Keseberg. Then there was Louis Keseberg, the last man to be rescued. Keseberg's life was a tragedy that never ended. He opened a restaurant in Sacramento, but people refused to eat there, whispering that he had developed a taste for human flesh. He lost his children to illness and lived in crushing poverty. Late in his life, Keseberg met Eliza Donner, the daughter of George and Tamsin Donner, who had died at the lake. With tears in his eyes, he swore to her that he did not kill her mother, that she had died of natural causes before he resorted to eating her remains to stay alive. Eliza, in an act of incredible grace, believed him and forgave him. Keseberg died a lonely man, but his story serves as a reminder of the impossible choices made in the dark. Chapter 14. The Birth of a Legend. The Donner Party tragedy fundamentally changed how America viewed the West. It ended the era of unregulated shortcuts. The trail they left behind eventually became the path for the first transcontinental railroad. Engineers realized that the pass, where the families were trapped, was the only logical way through the mountains. Today, Interstate 80 runs right over that very ground. Thousands of people drive over it every day at 70 miles per hour, unaware that beneath the asphalt lies the path of the most desperate struggle in American history. Chapter 15. The Final Word. Why does the story of the Donner Party still fascinate the US audience today? It's because it asks a question we are all afraid to answer. What would I do to survive? It is a story of human failure, yes, but it is also a story of supernatural endurance. It is about the mothers who gave their last scrap of leather to their children, and the rescuers who risked their lives to climb into a white hell. The mountains didn't just break the Donner Party. They revealed what lies at the core of humanity when everything else is stripped away. The snow still falls in the Sierras. The wind still howls through the pines at Donner Lake. And if you stand very still in the winter cold, you realize that the story isn't just a part of the past. It is a part of the land itself. Chapter 16. The Haunting of Donner Pass. History books tell us the facts, but the people of the Sierra Nevada mountains tell a different story. To this day, hikers and locals claim that the area around Donner Lake is not as empty as it looks. There are whispers of shadow figures seen moving between the ancient pines, figures dressed in tattered 19th century clothing that vanish the moment you look directly at them. Some say the sheer amount of suffering that occurred in the winter of 1846 left a psychic scar on the land. In the dead of winter, when the wind howls at a specific frequency, some campers have reported hearing the distant sound of oxen bells and the faint crying of children. Is it just the wind, or is it a lingering echo of a nightmare that refuses to be forgotten? Chapter 17. The mystery of the missing gold. There is also a legend of lost treasure. It is documented that many of the families in the Donner Party were wealthy. They carried their life savings in gold coins, hidden inside the false bottoms of their wagons or sewn into their clothing. When the rescue parties arrived, they were focused on saving lives, not luggage. Much of the heavy furniture and many of the wagons were abandoned and eventually buried under decades of soil and snow. Over the years, treasure hunters have searched the area, hoping to find the Donner gold. A few coins have been found, but the bulk of the wealth remains hidden, perhaps guarded by the very spirits of those who died trying to reach the promised land. Chapter 18. The Scientific Miracle. In recent years, archaeologists and forensic scientists have returned to the site with modern technology. Using ground-penetrating radar and DNA analysis, they have tried to piece together exactly what happened in those final dark days. What they found was surprising. While cannibalism definitely occurred, scientific evidence suggests it wasn't as widespread as the sensationalist newspapers of the time claimed. Many of the survivors lived on bone soup for much longer than previously thought. This discovery has changed the narrative, moving it away from a story of monsters and toward a story of incredible human willpower and biological endurance. Chapter 19. The Lesson for the Modern World. The Donner Party is more than just a grim historical footnote. In American schools, it is often taught as a cautionary tale about the dangers of arrogance and the importance of community. James Reed's decision to take a shortcut he had never seen, despite the warnings of experts, is a classic example of hubris, a hero's fatal flaw. But the real lesson lies in the survivors. Most of the survivors were women and children. Statistics show that the women of the Donner Party had a much higher survival rate than the men. Why? Scientists believe it was a combination of biological resilience and a fierce maternal drive to protect their offspring. They were the ones who kept the fires burning. They were the ones who rationed the scraps of hide to keep their babies alive. Chapter 20. Final Reflections. The Trail to Tomorrow. As we look back at the trail of 1846, we see a mirror of the American identity. We see a people who were willing to risk everything for a better life. We see the terrible mistakes we make when we are in a hurry, and the incredible strength we find when we have nothing left. The Donner Party didn't reach California in the way they imagined. They didn't arrive with their wagons full of furniture and their cattle lowing in the fields. They arrived broken, scarred, and forever changed. But in their struggle, they carved a path that millions would eventually follow. They are a part of every highway, every bridge, and every city in the American West. Their story is a reminder that the road to progress is often paved with sacrifice, and that even in the deepest, coldest winter, the human spirit refuses to freeze. The story of the Donner Party isn't just about a tragedy in the snow. It's a testament to the iron will of the human spirit. But tell me, what do you think? Was James Reed a visionary, or a man blinded by ego? And what would you have done in those final dark days at the lake? Share your thoughts in the comments.